Russell meets Dwight. Alternatively, it's possible that Dwight is pressuring vendors to shut down the Dunmires. Whatever the situation, Cole is naturally stunned and begins to worry about how he will tell his father, who must already be upset because not only did Deacon's bomb not harm Dwight, but Deacon is also dead. And when Cole informs Jeremiah that none of his tactics have had any appreciable effect on Dwight, Jeremiah, predictably, has a full-fledged tantrum. And Dwight knows his old friend right away. In what way are they acquainted? They made pals while Dwight was incarcerated for an absurdly long time, so it's not really a mystery. Dwight asks Russell why he's in Tulsa after they engage in some small talk. Russell claims to be returning to New Orleans. Indeed, there will be a Tulsa King spin-off with Jackson in the lead role, called NOLA King. Dwight realizes right on that there is something Russell isn't telling him because Tulsa isn't precisely between Newark and New Orleans. Dwight asks Russell directly if he is in town to murder his old friend from the joint, knowing that Russell is in Ray's pocket. Russell gives up and acknowledges that Ray has really sent him to kill Dwight. But yet, Russell declines Dwight's invitation to join him for dinner because he needs to consider how to protect himself. Goody approaches Dwight to inquire about this latest issue as soon as Russell departs. Dwight informs Goody that Ray had ordered Russell to kill him, but instead of carrying out his end of the bargain, Russell had warned him so that Dwight would be ready for whatever that might happen when Ray discovered that Russell had not finished his assignment. Goody leaves to turn on their network so they can detect any attempts by Ray to approach Dwight. Even yet, seeing Sam Jackson is always pleasant. Here, he portrays the aptly called Russell Lee Washington Jr., a hitman frequently employed by criminal organizations in New York. Most recently, he was hired by Quiet Ray for what he believed to be his final hit in Newark, New Jersey. Russell is leaving the match. Years have passed, and he's had enough. He won't accept no for an answer, of course, and Quiet Ray wants to employ him to kill Dwight because of that misinterpreted assassination attempt. Fortunately for Dwight, he has a past with Russell. Since Dwight actually saved his life, Russell goes all the way to Tulsa to inform him that he is the target of a hit, but that he will not be carrying it out. When Ray eventually learns of this and tries to clarify his stance, Russell seriously considers hitting Dwight. He shows up on his home brandishing a gun, but he ultimately chooses against it. As a result, Quiet Ray dispatches 2 more New York goons to murder them both. He's not a really clever thinker. All of this is done to provide us with entertaining scenes involving Samuel L. Jackson and Sylvester Stallone. True, it develops the idea that Ray wants Dwight dead. Did Tyson teams up with Spencer to sell drugs? In order to give Bodie his cut of the drug-fueled rave's earnings, Tyson meets with him. I assumed that was an isolated incident, but Tyson starts encouraging Bodie to contact someone who can give them some ecstasy, indicating that Tyson plans to make these drug raves a regular occurrence. Bodie suggests that Tyson create his own ecstasy by just obtaining the basic stuff. Tyson demands that Bodie find him a source since that is too difficult. Bodie's response makes it clear that he doesn't want to interact with ecstasy makers because they are a hazardous group. However, Bodie consents to get back in touch with those guys for Tyson's sake. However, Bodie has one requirement: Tyson cannot sell ecstasy on anything that Dwight owns under any circumstances, as Dwight may become extremely enraged if he finds out that Tyson is earning his keep. It should be noted that Bodie is not the only one attempting to move up the ladder. Grace is also seeking a promotion and contacts Joanne to ask for a job at Montague Distilleries. Although Joanne is clearly pleased, she is concerned about Bodie's reaction because Grace has been employed by Bodie for a considerable amount of time. Bodie won't mind, Grace tells Joanne. Joanne thus begins teaching Grace the ropes right away. Returning to Tyson, he and Spencer go to an unorganized rave where they attempt to sell their drugs. However, security quickly expels them after they are caught red-handed. But this subplot is just bizarre. I had assumed that Tyson and Spencer would have their own gatherings and sell narcotics there. What is the point of selling drugs in haphazard raves? I have a feeling that Tyson, the king of mistakes, is preparing another accident. He's been granted a lot of latitude by Dwight, but I suspect that this drug business will be his final error. Russell teams up with Dwight. Ray calls Russell while he's getting ready at a motel to ask for an update on his mission. Russell informs him outright that he isn't performing the job. In order to avoid feeling totally taken advantage of, he instructs Ray to get his money back from the store. Ray becomes quite irate and makes some murder threats against Russell, but the elderly killer seems unaffected by this. Mitch tells Dwight at the Bread, $2 saloon that a hitman from New York is sleeping in a neighboring hotel, and he's not referring about Russell. Margaret arrives to speak with Dwight before he can decide whether or not he should be concerned about that. She offers him a update on Thresher, who is always talking to the police about the assault that occurred at his event. Dwight returns home after she leaves, and Russell unexpectedly knocks on his door. In actuality, Russell accepted Dwight's invitation to dinner, and he didn't exactly turn it down. That he chose to see his old acquaintance is therefore not all that shocking. However, Dwight addresses the elephant in the room during